So this first one is a review from Unit 6, where we got to break it down. First of all, and I really need you paying attention to this because it's going to confuse you today, okay? This is a square root. Can I have a negative inside a square root? No. What does that negative have to become? An I. Let's see if my board is working. An I. Okay, but in a few minutes, I'm going to try and confuse you. So you really got to pay attention today. Now, what can that 32 break down into? 16 and 2. Can I circle either one of those?
2.
Why? You can't break it down. It's a prime number. What can 16 break down into? 8 and 2. Or what else could I have used? 4 and 4. Does it matter? No. I'm going to circle my 2. I can't break it down. 8 breaks down into 2 and 4. Circle my 2. And 4 breaks down into 2 and 2. Is this coming back to us? We're remembering it? Okay. Now, when I make my big radical, I have a 3 outside. I have an I outside. And what am I writing inside? All the things that I circled. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s. What else do I also have inside? The x cubed. So that's 3 x's. Now, since this is a square root, how many numbers have to be the same in order to take them out? A 2. That's also where you're going to need to pay attention in a little bit. Okay. So I have 2 2s. I take it out. 2 2s. I take it out. What else do I have 2 of? The x's. So I take it out. What do I do to everything outside? Multiply. So let's start with our numbers. What's 2 times 2? Times 3? 12. I'm going to write it over here. What else is outside? And the x. So xi or ix. It doesn't matter. What's left inside my square root? A 2 and an x. So this would be my simplified version. Is it coming back to us a little bit? Okay. All right, let's go do our conversions like what we did yesterday. So I think yesterday in first period, I taught y'all inside and outside. But then in all my other classes, we changed the letters and I think it worked a lot better. Whatever works for you, okay? We called it an index and a power because those are what they're actually called. So it is power over index, or the inside over the outside number, okay? So when I rewrite the first one, 2x to the 3/4, first of all, it's got to have a radical. And what's the big term that's inside my radical? 2x. And since it's more than one thing, I'm going to keep it in the parentheses. Now, the 3 is on top. That 3 is called the power. Does that go inside or outside? Inside. So it's going to go with my parentheses. And then that 4 is actually called my index, which has to be teeny tiny. It's got to be small. It cannot be big outside that number or outside the radical, okay? All right, so the second one, I have the cube root of 4x squared. So first of all, I need something that's going to be my big number or my big base. And what's that going to be? And you see how they're together? Then they need to stay together, okay? Which one is my power? 2. And what is my index? So what is my fraction going to say? 2/3, 2 over 3. Very good. Questions? Okay, then we are going to fly through our notes today because we are combining these two things into one problem, okay? So open up your spirals for me. Let me make sure that this is sharing the right thing. There we go. All right, so open up your spirals for me. We're going to have Unit 9, Topic 2, and we're going to simplify radicals, okay? Simplifying our radicals. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rewrite the radical that we learned yesterday. So we're going to have a square root. I'm going to write it a little big. You don't have to write it too big, okay? Inside we have an x. And then we're going to have, of course, our power and our index, okay? So our power and our index. So here is what's different than our warm-up. When I have a square root, I'm looking for groups of how many numbers? 2. Do you know why? I have a square root of something. I look for groups of 2. Because what is my index? If I don't have an index, what is it automatically? A 2. So I'm looking for groups of 2 because my index equaled 2. So if I have the cube root of something, how many of a kind do I have to take it out? 3, because my index is 3. Okay, so groups of 3. Why groups of 3? Because my index equals 3. So what do you need to know? You need to know, I'm going to write it over here. This index, this I. So my index tells me how many in a group. That's what the index tells me. How many in a group. So what if it said the 6th root? What if my index was 6? How many numbers or letters do I need exactly the same before I can take anything out? 6 of them, okay? Now, here's the tricky part. Like in our warm-up, we had a square root, and inside was a negative. Can I have a negative inside a square root? No. So if my index is even, 2 is an even number. What's another even number? 4, 6, 8. If my index is even, I have no negatives inside, meaning the only way to get rid of it is to make it the letter I. Okay. But what if my index is odd, like 3 or 6 or 9? Then the inside negative just comes outside, and I'm going to show you what that means. So there's no I's. Okay, so if you want to write that, then no I. So if my index is odd, there's no I's. If my index is even, then I have to have the I. So we're going to do, we'll do 3 or 4 examples. Okay, so let's do example number 1. Example number 1 is going to say the cube root of 40x to the 3rd. So first of all, is there even a negative number to worry about? No. Okay. And what is my index? My index is 3. So that means I need groups of 3. So I want you to start breaking your 40 down, just like we did in the warm-up. So what can 40 break down into? 4 and 10, 2 and 20, any of those things, okay? What does 4 break down into? 2 and 2, and I'm going to circle them. And what does 10 break down into? 2 and 5. So when I go rewrite my cube root of all this stuff, inside's going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 5, just what's circled. And then what else do I have inside? 3 x's. Now, since my index is 3, how many of the same thing do I have to have? 3. So I have to have 3 of a kind in order to take that out. And then I have 3 x's, so I can take that out. And then the same rules still apply, y'all. The outside I multiply. So what is 2 times x? 2x. And then I have the cube root. You got to keep your index. It cannot change. And what's the only thing left inside? A 5. Very good. All right. Very similar to what we've been doing, yes, or what we already did. All right, let's try another one. So what if I give you -3, the cube root of -27? So first thing, let's determine our index. What is our index? A 3. That means I need groups of 3. Now, since my index is odd, am I going to have the letter I? No, okay? Because my index is odd. So remember, an odd index means the negative comes out. I know we're writing a lot of side notes, but it'll be good, okay? The negative comes out. So this negative, watch what I'm gonna do, is literally just going to come outside. It's just going to come outside. Okay. Only if the index is odd can the negative come outside. Now let's just break down 27. What does 27 break down into? 9 and 3. Circle my 3, and 9 breaks down into 3 and 3. So let's make my big radical and see what all I have. I have a -3 outside. My negative, you can make it a -1 if you want. That might be better for your eyes. And then what is inside my radical right now? 3 times 3 times 3. My index is 3. So what do I need? How many of the same thing do I need? 3 of them. So I have 1, 2, 3 of those can come outside. What am I going to do to everything outside? So what's 3 times -1 times -3? +9. Is there anything left inside? So should I have a radical house still? Nope, that will be my final answer. Okay. What other 3? The index 3? Well, we can only have an index if we have a radical. Do we have a radical? No, that index doesn't actually multiply anything. That only tells me how many I have to circle, okay?
What about the -1?
We multiplied that, right? What's 3 times -1? So this is -3, and what's -3 times -3? A +9, okay? A -1, yes, ma'am. So when you get rid of the negative, because it's an odd, hey, listen though, it's not because these numbers are odd, it's because what is odd? The index. That's the only thing that tells us, not anything else. The index is odd, okay? All right, let's go try one more. So let's do this one. Let's do 9x to the 5th, y to the 6th, to the 2/3. We'll do that, okay? This does not look like a problem we know how to do because it has an exponent. Just a second, let me rearrange. So the first thing I need to do is rewrite this like we learned yesterday. So how am I going to rewrite this? In my radical, I'm going to have a radical. What's going to be inside? The 9x to the 5th, y to the 6th. What is my power? 2. And what is my index? 3. So here's where this gets tricky. You have to pay attention to your power. My power tells me how many times to write what's inside. So how many times am I writing 9x to the 5th, y to the 6th? Twice. So what this really means is the cube root of 9x to the 5th, y to the 6th, and I'm going to write it twice. Okay, now you have two choices. We can actually multiply these and then break them down, or we can break them down separately. That's my suggestion, okay? So here's what I would do. Let's go take this 9 and break it down. What does 9 break down into? 3 and 3, and I can circle them both. What does this 9 break down into? 3 and 3, and I can circle them both, okay? Now, I'm going to make this big because I'm going to write it all out, but I'll show you another way to do it, okay? So what goes inside? What are my numbers? 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. All those numbers have to go inside. How many, trick question, how many x's are inside? 10. Where did we get 10 from? Because there's 5 on this side and 5 on this side. I'm going to write them all down, but I'm going to show you or talk to you about another way to do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many y's are inside? 12. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're going to see. I'm just writing it down because it's the one example we're doing. I'm not expecting you to do this every time, okay? What is my index? What am I looking for? Groups of what? 3. So let's just go circle. So I have 3's. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to circle 3 x's and take it out. So go circle your groups of 3's. And then we're going to discuss how to do this without writing it 20 times. Okay. I also need groups of y's. So I'm circling groups of 3's. Okay. Now, what am I going to do to everything on the outside? Multiply. What's my only number outside? What? Where are we getting 9 from? 3 is the only number outside, right? That's why you got to write your index teeny tiny. So 3 is outside. How many x's are outside? So how do I write that? X cubed. Very good. How many y's are outside? 4. So how do I write that? Y to the 4th. Then I keep my cube root. What's left inside my cube root? A 3 right here and an x right here. Very good. 3x. Okay. Now let's discuss how can I do this without writing 10 x's. So think in your head. If I have 10 x's and I need groups of 3, what can I do? Just divide. So how many times, how many groups of 3's can I make with 10 x's? 3, but what do you have to then remember? There's 1 left over to get to 10. Okay, so if you need to write your letters out, then write them out, y'all. It doesn't take that much time and you're guaranteed to get it right. If you don't understand to divide by that number. Now, listen, you cannot do that for numbers, only for letters, okay? For the numbers, you have to write them out and circle them. For the letters, if you understand you can divide, then you can do that. On your practice today, you will also have an index of 4. What does that mean? You are circling groups of how many? Of 4, okay? All right, I'm gonna pass your packets out today. You are on the next page. This one right here, it has all these boxes. Some of you will finish it, and if so, you need to pick one of these IXLs to complete, okay? Are there questions?
No.
Perfect, let's get started because I think on Monday, we're moving on to the next topic.